Welcome into this quick impromptu episode tonight. We mentioned earlier in our recap that we weren't going to do a show this week. Well, that quickly changed, and here we are with this quick baseball, softball special for you guys, kind of recapping this week's midweek game and kind of giving you a preview of the upcoming matchups this weekend. As you know, we're going to have our show on Saturday. Quick plug, our show Saturday at Core Brewing. It's going to be a great time. Get out there. But since we're doing our main show there, we figured we'd talk about the softball baseball midweek series of first baseball, preview the series this weekend, since when we'll be doing the show will be during the series. So we just wanted to get you caught up on that as we get ready for Saturday. We're both super excited. It's going to be a great time. Come out to Core, enjoy whether it be Scarlet Letter or some of their craft beers that they have on tap that you can only get at Core. Other than that, we mentioned we'll have Addison Nichols there. And I think there's a good chance we're going to have another special guest there with us. Not going to make any for sure promises, but it seems like we might have one Taylor Green in the building with us as well, along with Addison. So, get out there. You can come meet those guys. Talk to them, shake some hands, and then we'll have them on talking about spring practice and, letting everybody know how it went, how that transition was for those guys as they were both transfers. So it'll be a great perspective to get from both of those guys. Anything to add in there, Seth?
No, just really excited to have them come on, get to see them again. We've talked to them a couple of different times in the past. Got to sit down and eat some lunch and stuff with Addison before. Really cool guy. Taylor's awesome. His mentality and work ethic, you can see it just kind of oozing out of him all the time. So come meet those guys. They're really great. Especially we'll appreciate your support considering their transfers. So come out, say hey. Give them all the support you can and give us a little bit of support while you're at it, as well as Core Brewing and Scarlet Letter. It's going to be a really kind of fun trio of things going on there that day. So come out and see us.
That's very true. And as we get into this, as you know, our episodes are brought to you by a combination of Scarlet Letter and Home Field as well. Home Field Apparel is, you can step into the legacy of collegiate style with their Home Field's premium vintage apparel. You can embrace the spirit of your alma mater or even your favorite team with our meticulously crafted, comfortable, and stylish collection. You can elevate your game day attire and celebrate the rich history of college sports with Home Field, where tradition meets modern comfort in every stitch. And like we've said before, use Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off that first order. They've got some great gear. Then they're always coming out with consistently new items there. And so we'll jump right in here as Arkansas baseball had a midweek series this week. Their second, in as many weeks, having a 2-game midweek series where they played on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and they played Texas Tech, a foe out of the Big 10 there, or Big 12. And, they came in and, Arkansas coming off a loss, a series loss, a tough weekend at Alabama where, it didn't seem like things went our way as far as the bats. Our pitching was, not as up to par what we're used to, but was still manageable. We were in at least that second game. That third game was just had a weird feeling about it. But as we come back this week, a good home series, 2-game series before you hit the road again, kind of build back that confidence a little bit. And, the way Arkansas started the first game, it didn't seem like that was the case. You had Ben Bybee starting this one, a guy that you've seen start several midweeks already, really had been looking good up until this point. He had a great first inning, took them down really quick there in the first inning, but things really started going north or south in that second inning. He came out and threw only 1 1/3 innings, 36 pitches. He allowed 6 hits and 6 runs and only 2 strikeouts. So Arkansas is down 6-0 early in this game. And, myself, probably like several other you guys were thinking, great, that loss from this weekend starting to bleed over into this game. And, is this something that Arkansas is going to do an Arkansas thing in a sense? After Bybee, they brought out Christian Fouch for another inning in the third, 2 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts with 36 pitches. You brought in Gage Wood. He went the longest out of all of our guys here in this kind of long relief role, going 2 1/3 inning with 2 hits, 1 run, with 4 strikeouts on 34 pitches. You had Parker Coyle for an inning, 2 strikeouts. So he had a better outing than, what he's had in the past. Will McIntyre for an inning and a third, 2 hits, 1 run, 3 strikeouts there on 25 pitches. And then Gabe Gakel comes in for the final 1 2/3 for a 1 hit, 1 strikeout on 24 pitches. So, talking about the pitching side of things, what did you see from this staff as they came out in this midweek game?
Well, it had to get pieced together. I mean, that was all there is to it. The starter, Ben, he just didn't click. And in these midweek games, it's funky because if your starter doesn't get you 5 or 6, you don't want to overthrow any of your relievers. So it's definitely relief by committee. And we saw that in this game. Like there's, obviously McIntyre could have went longer, Gage could have went longer, but in the back of your head and obviously back of Dave's head, you don't want those guys to throw much more than, 30 pitches or so, because you're probably going to need them quite a bit in this coming weekend. So you don't want to gas those guys. So I thought they did a good job of kind of juggling some guys around, mixing in some of the normal relievers with Parker Coyle, a handful of other guys that don't get as many innings. And they came out and actually, I thought pitched pretty well, especially Parker. And you utilize this game as is what it is. I know it's a fairly big matchup against Texas Tech. They're not a slouch of a non-conference team, if you will, at all. But you still kind of use the midweek as how you traditionally use a midweek, as getting a lot of guys a lot of in-game experience. Some of the guys that maybe don't get on the field as much on the weekends and things of that nature. So I think we kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone in a way, considering Ben didn't go as long as he really needed to. You had a few names out there that you might not would have otherwise in McIntyre and Gage Wood. But outside of that, this obviously wasn't the best game for us, but it wasn't the worst in a sense, with a lot of guys getting a lot of experience, even in the fielding side of things too, with, Peyton Holt getting significant playing time in the outfield, and he's done quite well at it. So it's been kind of a fun ride to see some of the lineup get shaken around a little bit in some of these midweeks, especially like this one, for example, where the competition level was pretty high. It was made for a very entertaining game. That is for sure.
Yeah, that's very true. If it was like me, I was watching this game and then all of a sudden I turn around and, Arkansas is trailing 7-0 in the bottom of the 4th. And you really start to worry here. But yeah. And with the struggle Arkansas had at the plate, you're really like, is there any coming back from this? Is like, you don't really want to drop a midweek game. And that's where kind of Arkansas kind of started to show up here. They put together a 6-run 5th inning to tie the game here. Peyton Holt started things out with an RBI single. Vahiva Aloy had an RBI double that set the table for Ben McLaughlin's big 2-out, 2-run home run that cut Arkansas's deficit to 1, where they were down 7-6. And then you have Hudson White, very familiar with this team that came in from Texas Tech. Him and Molina both. He tied the game 7-all later in that 5th inning with a 2-out double that scored Jack Wagner from second. But then the Red Raiders, they answered back in the 6th, where they had a solo home run that would put them up 8-7 against Will McIntyre, a guy that doesn't give up a ton of home runs, and as a guy that doesn't give up a ton of hits. But then Arkansas that was in the 7th. Arkansas kind of bounces back here and ties the game at 8-8 when Peyton Stovall beat out a double play that allowed Wilmsmeyer to score from third base in the 8th. So you're all tied up at 8-8 going into the 9th inning, where, it was one of those things where Arkansas did what they needed to keep them in the game, and the ball just went their way, where Texas Tech, they committed 2 errors and hit a batter to lead off the 9th, which allowed the bases to get loaded there, and Jared Spraglott scored the game-winning run, but it wasn't after a move by Dave Van Horn that he pulled a guy like Jack Wagner that had a decent game to put in a Nolan Souza that hadn't really played that night and said, here you go. Here's your shot to step up big. And sure enough, he got a sac fly that scored Spraglott to walk it off in the bottom of the 9th. And I think it was a game that many Arkansas fans, felt a sigh of relief once it was over. But I think that this team battled through some adversity, and hopefully that's something that we can see going forward.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see a lot more of those crooked number innings out of us where we score 5 or 6 in one inning. Haven't seen as much of that this year as we did last year. I know, some of the broadcasts and stuff of the last year's team, they were keeping up with stats where we had the most crooked number innings out of any team in the country, and they would kind of track that week in and week out. We had like 22 run innings, 9 3-run innings, 6 4 run, they kind of tracked all that. We haven't seen that quite as much this year, but we've been able to string together lots of hits or score big time innings with a lot of long balls in one inning. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that from time to time. It may not just be kind of what this team is built to do as much as maybe last year's squad was. But I think this team is really, they're going to find their offensive groove. You've already seen it kind of ebb and flow a little bit here later, kind of this midpoint in the season, if you will, that they've made quite a bit of strides compared to how we looked early on in the year where, scoring just a handful of runs was difficult for us. We've at least had some consistency throughout. If you scratch out that game 3 against Alabama, that just had a funky feel to it. We've done fairly well, at least, scoring multiple runs a game, especially in some of these good pitching matchups where that was 100% why Nolan Souza comes into the game there at the end just for the lefty batting matchup there. Thought that was a good move. He'd had a hot bat, been hitting the ball really well, seeing the ball big and hitting it hard. And that was what you want there, is to drive one at least deep enough to where you can have a tag up top sack fly. That's exactly what happened. So great call right there by the coaching staff, Van Horn, whoever kind of punched the button to put him in over, who you said had a really good game this game in Jack Wagner. I think it was just the right call from a matchup perspective. But all in all, was really, really excited that we were able to battle back in this one and put up enough runs, especially in that 5th inning, to kind of get us back into the game and then tie it. And then it just felt like from there we had some new life. And I think that resonated over even to the pitching, that it wasn't just trying to go out there and get through some innings. It was trying to go out there and have some significant impact on the game and maybe pull out a sneaky win that you probably shouldn't have got. You really saw that from the bullpen there towards the end of this game, that they were fired up about everything. The pitches were hitting hard. They were really amped up. And I think the fans got into it once we kind of got back into this game, and that definitely helped things as well. So overall, absolutely crazy, wild game. Don't really want any more like this. Honestly, I hate getting down 7 runs, dude. I honestly didn't think we were going to come back. I just didn't know if this team had enough offensive firepower to come back, just with what we've seen earlier on in the year. So I think it was a good proving moment that this team really can battle through anything and find a way to win in any scenario, no matter how dire the odds look. They never count them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true. When you look at it too, McLaughlin had himself a night, 3 for 4, a double, a home run, 2 RBIs. Jack Wagner, the guy we were just talking about that got pulled for Nolan Souza, went 2 for 2 with an RBI. You had Jason Jones, a guy that we talked about, has been one of those guys that have been going through that revolving door that's the outfield. He went 2 for 4 with 2 doubles. So, he's hitting the ball with quite a bit of power. And it's just one of those things where you've got so many guys. He's trying to break into this lineup, and he's had some success early on in the season. Then you saw, Edmondson, Lovich, those type of guys have success. Now you're seeing Peyton Holt get some time in the outfield and seeing what he can do out there, because, he's got a great bat as well. So all those guys finished with multi-hit games. 7 Razorbacks recorded at least 1 run batted in, which was led by McLaughlin's 2. Thanks, and that is, he had his 7th home run of the game of the season. So Arkansas gets that win there. And then as you jump over to that second game, another close game, but didn't necessarily as big of a deficit early on. It was much more of a back and forth game throughout the entire thing. And in this one, you had Colin Fisher, a.k.a. Big Tuna, get the start in this one. He went 4 innings. He struggled in this game. It seems like these midweek starters it wasn't their week. And, he went 4 innings, allowed 5 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts on 61 pitches. You bring in Cody Frank, a guy that, we literally talked about in our recap show, bringing him in a midweek game, seeing if you can get him, some success, get him feeling more confident. He came in for an inning, walked a guy and had 15 pitches. So not really the what you're wanting to see when you're trying to get a guy build up confidence there. Cooper Dossett came in and gave a great 2 2/3, allowing 1 walk and 3 strikeouts on 39 pitches. Jake Faraday came in for a third, walked a man on 6 pitches. Then you had Stone Hewlett come in and close it out with the final inning there, allowing 1 hit, 1 run, and 1 strikeout on what was a pretty amped up strikeout there at the end where you saw him chirp a little bit towards that Texas Tech dugout there. But so you like to see that fire from these guys. Don't know what necessarily was said. I know right before that strikeout, he had a home run hit off of him, but he found his way back and got the strikeout to kind of seal the deal for Arkansas.
Yeah, the announcers were questioning why the chirping, and I, personally, I kind of am too, as to what happened to cause that. Outside of obviously the home run, makes me think that there might have been a little bit of chirping as the home run trot was going around the bases. You obviously can't hear that, from the broadcast side of things, but there may have been something said. Who knows? I will say the home run that I can't remember what his name was. Man, I racked my brain. Anyhow, I mean, it was first pitch. Wasn't even a bad pitch in my opinion. He just really pulled one and absolutely crushed it over the bullpen in left field. So you had to give him a little bit of credit there for being ready in that moment and brought this game within 1 run. We were up 5-3, I think, at that point when that home run happened. So Gabe takes a little bit of life, and I think that was one thing that he was amped up about, to kind of shut that door right back on him, following it up with a strikeout to end the game. But
that name you're looking for, Cade McGee.
Cade McGee, yeah, their third baseman who'd had a heck of a couple of games against us. So I think there was maybe a little bit of talk that happened when that hit happened. There was definitely some attitude from McGee from some of the third base plays he had made in this game and the game prior. So I don't know. Maybe that's where it came from. I'm not sure. You can definitely tell that Stone Hewlett's got a little bit of fire in him, though. And he wasn't scared to show it after he shut the door on him. So definitely an exciting game in this one as well. Couple of standout plays by Peyton Stovall, flashing the leather, had a diving catch that not many second basemen get to out there. Had a really nice double play right before that home run, actually, that would have ended up tying the game if that double play hadn't happened. So a lot of things went well in this game for us on the defensive side of things that helped us secure the victory in a tight one, and you can't overlook those either. So I thought Peyton Holt had a really, really phenomenal couple of games. He had a double play himself in the outfield. That was Jason Jones had that double play off the rocket shot while he was getting some time out there in left field. And I think Holt was in center. But overall, mixed up the outfit a little bit, and it was fun to see that with a couple of the guys that brought a little bit of extra offense to the plate. Seeing them out there in the outfield succeed and really prove that, hey, we can hold our own on the defensive side of things as well, between Holt and Jones. So I'm not sure if they'll play as much in some of the weekend series when you maybe want more of the defensive side of things, but they definitely give you a little bit of a viable trade-off if you ever need that in a situational series or something like that. I think both of those guys could really, play any given weekend for us or any other team out there. So they're earning their playing time, rightfully so.
Yeah, that's true. So Arkansas, with those 2 wins, improved to 9-0 in midweek games this season. They have 3 regular season midweek contests remaining, and they're looking to go undefeated in midweek games for the first time since the 2005 season that went 9-0 as well. So, they're breaking all kinds of records. They're on a 25 consecutive home game victory right now, and that's a program record that they keep adding to. And in this game, you look at it, we talked about the pitching side of things there, but you look at the bats, you got Peyton Stovall. He starts the game off on the right manner with a leadoff home run in the bottom of the first to put Arkansas up 1-0 early. And, you go in the second, Texas Tech scores a run, ties it up. Well, we go into the bottom of the second. Who else than one of the hot bats in Nolan Souza? Leadoff home run again. So Arkansas's up 2-1 at this point. He's a guy that he keeps taking advantage of those opportunities, and it's like Several of the guys said, I know they interviewed Hagen Smith, and he said, I mean, just look at Souza. He looks like a big leaguer. They had him playing out at, third a little bit this second game, a place that they played him in midweek games last week. So they're getting him some experience at the third baseman that you might see him there next season with Sprague, being a grad transfer that came in. And so it's one of those things that you like to see, that bright spot from the young freshman there. And then, he tied Ben McLaughlin with 7 home runs on the season. So, he's a guy that's holding his own there. And then you look at Texas Tech, they came back, scored a pair of runs on a 1-out ground rule double. Took me a minute there, but they went up 3-2 on that, where the ball hopped and hit the line on deep right field that they technically counted as a home run there. And then, the bullpen put together a great string of innings there, 5 scoreless frames until they allowed that solo home run in the top of the 9th. Arkansas, fought, retook the lead, never looked back in this game. Vahiva Loy had a game-tying RBI that tied at 3-3. And then Jack Wagner had a sac fly to center that scored the go-ahead run for Arkansas. And then they tacked on one more run in the 8th, put them up 5-3 when Jason Jones was hit by a pitch with bases loaded. In this game, Jason Jones took a beating. Not hit by a pitch but once, but twice. The first one was much worse than the last one, where that first time he got beamed straight in the helmet with that one, and they took him off to evaluate for concussion. You never want to be too careful there. He comes in, so they pinch run for him. Then he comes back in the game and gets hit again. And luckily that one was, I think just on around the hand area, something like that.
Yeah, it was.
And so allowed us to walk a run in. But, he's taking advantage of those. Unfortunately, you hate to see players get hit like that, but especially that first time, that's a very scary thing when they get hit in the helmet. That's something you don't want to see. So, overall, great 2 games for this team to really, respond after a series loss last weekend, come back home, your home crowd, you get the 2-game sweep against, like we said early in the show, no slouch of an opponent there, a Big 12 opponent that, it's Texas Tech. They've had success in the past. They're having a decent season this year so far. So, great, I think, bounce back wins for Arkansas as they head on the road to take on South Carolina. And speaking of that matchup, we'll go and jump right into that. As this is the 3rd road series of the season for Arkansas. They had the early one against Auburn, then last weekend's against Alabama, but now you're going on the road with a record of 32-5 at that number 2 spot against South Carolina. That is 26-11. They've won 5 of their past 6 games, and most recently they beat Florida in their most recent SEC series. And they've also have victories over A&M, who's currently sitting at number 1 right now, and North Carolina, that's right up there in the top 25 as well. So one thing that you want to keep an eye out for Arkansas is one of your captains, Kendall Diggs, going to be able to go for this game. They gave him a break this midweek series. I think, a couple of those big plays he made last week kind of irritated and maybe inflamed his shoulder a little bit, so they just wanted to give him a break to see if he can go. Dave did say on Tuesday night that he was battling that minor injury and swelling in his non-throwing shoulder. So, he expects him to be ready for the weekend, but, you don't want to be too careful with one of your key guys there. And then when you start looking at South Carolina, who do you watch with this team? Their team that always seems to hang around, be sneaky good. They've been there to the World Series in Omaha before. And even though they're sitting right now in the bottom half of SEC batting average, they in home runs, they have 284 runs on the season, which are 5th most in the league. They have 263 walks, which lead the SEC. Individual guys you want to look at when you're talking about their roster going down are Ethan Petrie and Cole Messina. They're both guys that have more than 10 home runs and 30 RBIs on the year. Petrie has 15 of his 42 hits that were home run, and he has a 35 team high of 35 walks. So this is a team that's much like Arkansas, a very patient team that they're not going to just necessarily swing at everything and can draw those walks. Another guy you want to look at is Dalton Reeves. He has 7 starts on the season, but they've all come in the past 12 games where he's a senior that's hitting 345 with 13 RBI. So, there's certain guys that you want to watch out for when you're talking about batters on the South Carolina team.
Yeah, everybody knows Ethan Petrie is like a freakazoid of a player. We'd love to have guys like that on our team. We've got a handful, in my opinion, but he's one of those ones that's just kind of I'm not going to say generational talent, but pretty close. He's projected to be, obviously a first-round draft pick when he goes. So it's one of those things. You face a guy like that, you got to be at least somewhat strategic around him. Don't expect us to just sit there and pitch to him like we do the rest of their lineup, if you will. Obviously, we're not going to intentionally walk somebody, at least very often. But you got to give those types of guys a little bit more respect maybe than the rest and try to get outs on maybe some of the other guys in the lineup more so than Petrie. But overall, I'm confident in our pitching staff being able to match up against some of their power hitters that they have. It's going to be a tough battle with some power versus power, if you will. But I think we match up pretty well. I feel like we've said it before. I feel like we match up pretty well against anybody we're going to play. That A&M series is going to be a pretty wild one, especially considering it's at A&M and they're looking rough. But heck, I even think we match up well with them. So especially if we can get some of the bats rolling, maybe a little bit more, get kind of back to how we looked against like Missouri series, where we hit 4 home runs in one game. Get back to a little bit more of that action. I think we've got some more left in the tank on the offensive side of things that we have yet to see. If we can start to kind of get that developing and get hot at the right time here against some of these really good opponents on the road that we got coming up over the next couple of weeks, it'd be pretty critical for us. I think it'll be critical even in this series, this soon, that we really kind of need to hit a next gear, if you will. But overall, I think we match up well from a pitching standpoint against some of their hitters for sure.
Yeah, that's very true. And then you look at the other side of things on paper. Arkansas looks like it's going to be facing the best SEC pitching staff that it's seen all season with the South Carolina roster. They're going to be playing Eli Jones, who's 3-1 on the season with a 3.57 ERA. Ty Good, that's 4-0 with a 2.53. That they lead the weekend rotation. And then South Carolina also has another mix of guys that they've played the season just like Arkansas. They know they have no shortage of bullpen. Arkansas can expect to face a guy like Tyler Pitzer, with a 3.49 ERA. Garrett Gainey, 3.91 ERA with 6 saves, so a guy that they can count on late in games there. And Chris Veach, 4.70 in high leverage situations. At the end of the day, you look at this is going to be another tough SEC series. Arkansas goes on the road. They've really got to figure out that road piece. I don't think I wouldn't call them struggles, but you can tell Arkansas is not at its best on the road. And no SEC team is. But you even see Arkansas struggled in that Auburn matchup. They came away with a series win there. You go to Alabama, you struggle a little bit there. So they've really got to figure out how to play well on the road when you don't have your all your fans behind you there. So when you're looking at this, I think Arkansas will come out, and I think they take the series probably 2-1. I'm not going to say we sweep just because it's a road series and we haven't swept one yet, but I still think Arkansas finds a way to win and gets the series here.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Anything can happen. We could sweep, we could lose. I definitely don't think we'll get swept, especially considering Haken is our Friday night starter. It's tough to lose games when he's throwing 6 or 7 scoreless usually for you. So I'll be curious to see exactly how good his stuff is against a pretty good hitting team like this with a couple of really standout studs. If he's able to pitch around those guys and get the majority of his outs, in the rest of the lineup, I'm sure he'll have plenty of strikeouts and things like that. If he can stay out of walk situations, he's going to be just fine. And that really sets you up well with generally game 1 win. And then after that, we've seen some highs and lows with kind of the way our starting pitching has been. And in those second two games, with the majority of it being pretty well. But we saw a little bit of struggles out of Mason Molina and Brady Tiger both last week at Alabama. So let's see how they bounce back with another road series. Might do a little bit better. Might kind of stay the same. I still expect, the thing is that they go out there and have a struggle game and they'll still get you 4 or 5. Maybe have a couple of runs given up throughout those 4 or 5 innings, but they've at least done a pretty good job, chewing up some innings here and there to where you're not completely depleting your bullpen, and you can be a little bit more strategic on matchups on who you're pulling out of the pen each inning after your starter's done. So if they can do that again, maybe have a slightly better output than they did against Alabama, I really think we'll be in a position to win all 3 of these games. Not sure we will, but that's all you can really ask for is keep yourself in a position to win. If the hits come when you got guys in scoring position, they do, and then you get a win. If they don't come in those scenarios, then sometimes it's harder to pull those off. So really what it boils down to is your pitchers just got to keep it close enough that you have a chance at any given point, and then let the bats do the rest of the work. I mean, that's why baseball is such a balancing act. But like I said before, I do feel like we match up pretty well. I don't think South Carolina is as deep as we are 1 through 9 in their lineup. You get past a couple of those big bats, and it tails off a little bit after that. So I definitely think this is a winnable series, even if it is on the road against a pretty good South Carolina team.
Yeah, that's true. I think one thing that I'm interested to watch is, Dave says he thinks he'll be ready to go, but if Diggs doesn't go, or if he maybe, does go that first game and maybe his performance isn't where it should be, who do you go to out in right? That's where Diggs has been all season.
Peyton Holt, baby.
I was about to say that that's where I was going there. Do you go with a Peyton Holt that, has been playing more and more in the outfield? And I'm also interested to see where we go out in left field. You've got a handful of guys. It could be any of those guys between Lovich, Edmondson, Jones even.
He's been hitting the ball well. Do you trade off maybe a little bit of speed from the Lovich and the Edmondson for the big bat of Jones? I mean,
that's what you've seen with,
made his case.
Just like Wilmsmeyer has been, up in and out of the lineup just because, he's great defensively, but his bat struggled at times. I wouldn't be surprised to see Souza DHing again this weekend, with just how hot of a bat he's had. He's had an incredible performance so far. Series will start Friday night. It should be another good weekend series, and hopefully Arkansas comes out on top, with our pitching staff. And I think with some of the bats figuring their way out, I think we should be in a good spot to hopefully take the series this weekend. And so that will jump over to our softball team. That they haven't had a midweek game this week or last week, but they've got a big matchup this weekend. As they went on the road last weekend, got the series win against South Carolina. They keep finding ways to win. We mentioned it. They've won 14 out of the last 15 road series dating back to the 2000, I think it was like 19 season or 20 season, where that's an incredible record that they have. And so, they've got a big matchup this weekend as they're ranked 14th, and you have number 15 Alabama coming to town, and it's a top 15 matchup here. For the third straight weekend, Arkansas had a rubber match that in the series they got this one here, advanced to 30-11 on the season, 9-6 in the SEC. Getting that win over South Carolina, they knocked off Georgia and Missouri in similar games. And like we said, this weekend doesn't get any easier as Alabama is coming to town. They're 30-10 on the season and 7-8 in league play. Arkansas had a stellar pitching performance from Robin Herron. We talked about it. When she gets back healthy, this team's going to be able to do good things. So the two teams will get kicked off on Friday night. And let's start talking about Alabama here. You look at them, they have one of the bigger storied programs in the SEC. They've struggled at times this season. They've dropped series to Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and last weekend to A&M. Their head coach, Patrick Murphy's in his 26th season. He's led the program to 14 College World Series and has more than 1,200 career victories. So, they're going against some tough opponents here. Alabama won its first 18 games of the season, but have went 12-10 since. Their only series win in SEC play is against Ole Miss. And so you look at their pitchers here. So their pitcher Beaver's no stranger to Arkansas. That's the senior. She, a right-hander, dominated Arkansas last season on a 4-0 win when she pitched for UCA. So, Alabama went out and got a pitcher from Arkansas that, gave Arkansas some problems last season. And on the season, she's sitting at 14-4 with a 1.42 ERA and 129 strikeouts over 123 innings. So near averaging just a little over one strikeout an inning. And she's holding opponents to a 199 batting average. That's insane. Last season with UCA, she was 25-7 and had a 1.15 ERA with 11 shutouts. So this is something that she's used to. And then another pitcher in the circle you want to watch out for is Jayla Torrance, another senior right-hander that's 7-3 on the season with a 2.23 ERA, 48 strikeouts, 11 walks, and 47 innings. She's had a complete game win against North Alabama this season. Postseason last year, she went 3-0 with 18 2/3 scoreless. And then you have freshman right-hander Jocelyn Brisky that is 6-2 with a 2.96 ERA, 49 strikeouts over 49 2/3 innings. She's made 5 starts this season, had a complete game win against Georgia Tech in her college debut. So Arkansas's got another pitching staff that I feel like we talk about it every week. We talked about in the recap. The SEC is loaded in both baseball and softball, and you're not going to have an easy week in or week out.
No, not at all. And really, the worst part about this matchup in my eyes is that Alabama's due, if you will. They're about due to get a series win. I don't want it to be against us, and I'm hoping that we can kind of curtail that for them. But they're too good of a team to keep dropping series week in and week out. So that's something definitely to watch out for, that they're going to be coming out hungry. I think we've got the pitching staff to match up with their pitching staff. You could see some lower scoring games than maybe we're kind of accustomed to. You've seen it a handful of times here and there throughout the year that we've been shut down. At the same time, we've shut down another team, and you get like a 3-2 victory. That's happened a handful of times. So I could see a couple of those types of games happening again here. I do think the one thing that does benefit us, is we're at home. Where we're comfortable. We got the fan support behind us. So I know those things are small variables, but they do contribute. They really do. And I think that could be part of the difference in this type of a matchup, where on paper, there's a lot of similarities between us and the Crimson Tide. I think we've just done maybe a little bit better job on squeaking some series out these last couple of weekends, but they've all been in close games as well. So yeah, I think this weekend's going to be kind of following that pattern. I don't foresee either one of these teams being able to come in and just absolutely knock the teeth in of the other team like we've seen a handful of times here and there. I think we match up pretty well. Both pitching staffs come in fairly healthy right now and throwing the ball well, especially now that we have Robin Herron. She had I guess a good comeback week, if you will, against South Carolina. So if she can continue that, Cammon's in. I think we match up with their pitching very close. But they've got some good batters. We've got some good batters. So who makes the least amount of mistakes when it comes to fielding, and which coach presses the right buttons on who to play, when to pinch run, when to pinch hit, those types of scenarios. I think it's going to be kind of that chess match type of a series for sure.
Yeah, that's true. So when you look at the offense for the Crimson Tide, they're led by their sophomore shortstop, Kenley Callahan. She leads the way with a 2.99 ERA or batting average, 2 home runs, and 22 RBIs. She started every game this season against Georgia. Earlier in the season, she had a pair of doubles and a homer, and she tripled against Georgia. Had 2 triples against Georgia Tech. And then you got to watch sophomore infielder Abby Dutcher. She provides a big pop in the lineup as well. She's got 6 homers on the season with 30 RBIs, hitting 294. You got to look at sophomore utility player Marley Giles, 6 homers on the season, 10 RBIs, and again, through 24 starts as a team. Alabama's hitting 272. So this is going to be a, big weekend series for Arkansas, like every SEC series is. Like Seth said, we do have the advantage of being at home this weekend. They've got some fantastic things planned, some Bark at the Park, I believe. Friday night, they're doing a Taylor Swift night for softball, which that's going to get a lot of people right there. And so, I think I have the most confidence in Courtney Dyfel with what she's been able to do. Even though we've not necessarily won every game, we've found ways to win the series, and I think that's what matters at the end of the day. But like Seth said, you can't get any type of relaxed as Alabama. Like he said, they're too good to not be due eventually a series win here. Like we said, hopefully that doesn't come against Arkansas. But I think with having a combination of Robin Herron back, some of these bats taking off and finding, their stride a little bit. One of those is Nia Carter. She's, over the past few games, seen her name mentioned a little bit more. Other than your regulars with Bree Ellis, Hannah Gamble, Reagan Kramer, those normal names you're used to hearing, you're starting to see Nia Carter pop up more. You can't forget Kennedy Miller, the freshman catcher that's had an outstanding season so far. And you got to give this team credit, and that's why we do talk about it, is because this team is so good. It's hard not to, but also, softball is growing in popularity, and it's fun to watch. I have season tickets myself and get out there as much as I can. These girls work hard, and to see the success they're having in the program back on its feet with Courtney Dyfel and what she's been able to do here is incredible. Another name, Reese, back on the mound, is available. Reese Berlin, she's another one that was out for a little bit with injury. So getting Robin and Reese back along with Morgan Leanstock, Hannah Camden, you're getting your depth back there, which allows, more rotation, and a team's not getting to see these same, pitchers as frequent and multiple times, and allowing them to figure out things like that. So, that series is going to begin Friday night as well. So, if you're in town, get out there. If you're coming up, maybe catch a softball game on Friday, and then just, roll your way over to Core on Saturday, and, catch us with doing our show. That sounds like a good weekend. But I think overall, this softball team, I'm ready to see them to show that continued success here. And, it's going to be another fun series where I wouldn't be surprised to see more program records in attendance this weekend as well.
Yeah, 100%. Get out there. The weather should be fairly decent. So I think there might be a small chance of rain off and on, but overall it shouldn't be terrible. And I fully expect, with all the promotions that are going on, there's going to be more records broken on fan attendance. And so that'll be cool to see. And it's really fun to see the support that the university is providing with them with some of the promotions that they are, kind of having go for the softball team. You see it all the time for baseball and things of that nature, but the softball team's getting some love, and they really deserve it, because they've had a phenomenal stretch these last few years of providing a lot of excitement, a good product on the field, and that's going to follow with fans and a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. So they're doing a great job there, and had a lot of good support go their way, and they deserve every bit of it.
Yeah, that's very true. And you can't forget to mention, Robin Herron was named SEC Pitcher of the Week. For her, like we said, she had that performance where she came back and just, dominated there against South Carolina. And you love to see that.
I think she pitched a full game in Game 3 to get us the win there.
Yeah, that's true. And so, with this weekend, there's going to be all kinds of promotions. You go look on Friday, it's Taylor Swift night, and you have post-game Kids Run the Bases. Then on Saturday, it's Glow Night, Red LED light stick giveaway, a fireworks show after the game. On Sunday, it's Bark in the Park, and Tusk is going to be in the berm. So get out there and see Tusk. Bring your four-legged friend, let them enjoy some softball, and then you're going to have post-game autographs as well on Sunday. So great weekend, like Seth said. Might be a little bit weather, but I think overall it's going to be a great, beautiful weekend to get out and watch some Arkansas softball. A few other notes we'll hit before we get out of here is, we mentioned it briefly Monday night. Arkansas got its first basketball commit with Big Z from Kentucky heading this way to follow Coach Cal. Zonvir Visic, I believe is how it is, but the big 7'2" guy that's a stretch center, can pop out and shoot the three. He didn't get to play a ton this season, getting cleared in January, so only played I think 11 games, didn't get a ton of playing time. Says he has a lot of upside, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what his development looks like when you think about what Cal can do with big men. You look at all the guys he's put in the NBA, the development this guy can take to the next, level of his performance is going to be big. And that's going to be aided by, just announced tonight, and we'll get more into this on Saturday, but Arkansas has announced they've hired Kenny Payne as an assistant coach for this Arkansas coaching staff, one of the first official kind of names that have been, put out there as it's an official thing. Kenny Payne brings 20 years of coaching experience, coached for Coach Cal before at Kentucky, before leaving and taking over the Louisville job, coached at Louisville for several years. And, he was relieved of his duties after last year, but, a guy that can bring valuable experience to this coaching staff. And, there's a few other names out there that are, rumored that could be joining the staff as well. We'll see what happens with that. I still hope Ronnie Brewer's kept on staff. I think he's a guy that still needs to be on staff for this Arkansas team that's going to be bring great experience. Any thoughts there, Seth?
Yeah, I'd like them to keep him if possible. I understand, Calipari wants to kind of have his own regime and bring the guys he's comfortable with. So we'll see. There's been rumors that they might hire Joe Johnson, ISO Joe, to come do some coaching. So that could be cool. There's some history there with him and Calipari. He was at the hiring announcement event, whatever you really, kind of want to call it, at Bud Walton. So that could be cool to have, some former NBA players on your coaching staff like that. But, we'll see kind of where it all shakes out. There's still a lot going on as well around a lot of the Kentucky players opening their recruitment back up. There's been some crystal ball rumors around Carter Knox, for example, a couple other guys that do have visits here to Arkansas. I can't remember the name of the player that originally had a visit scheduled with Louisville, canceled that visit to schedule a visit with Arkansas now. So
are you talking about Jaquin?
Yeah, the transfer, if I remember correctly.
I'm blanking on names.
I've seen so many names. I've been trying to keep track of all of it, and I can't remember them off the top of my head. I got to have my dang phone to help me out. First world problems. But anyways, there's the thing is there's a lot more media attention at Arkansas right now than there probably ever has been. And there's a lot of names that are showing interest in Arkansas that hadn't shown interest in Arkansas in the past, frankly, with a lot of those being big name 4-star and 5-star guys, number one transfer portal guys, things of that nature. It definitely helps when there's rumors flying around that Jerry Jones is doubling all of the NIL money that they would have made at Kentucky to come play at Arkansas. And so there's all kinds of craziness going on in the media right now, and I'm not sure what all of it is real, what all of it is fluff. We're a hot topic, which is fun to be, but at the same time, you do want to have some consistent names start to get locked down. So I'm excited to see where all of the swirling tornado that is the media, what they get right and what they get wrong, and then where some of these guys actually officially land. I think we've got potential to have a very good, talented lineup next year, which would be a fairly dramatic turnaround considering where this program was at before Cal was announced as the head hog. So a lot of spots to fill, a lot of guys out there that are interested in filling those spots. It's just do all the I's get dotted and the T's get crossed in the right ways to get them on campus. And it's going to be a fun ride seeing how that all plays out. And, dude, I've got high hopes that Calipari can really, knock this first class out of the water, if you will, and kind of hit the ground running from year one. I mean, I know the expectations are high, but I think they need to be realistic for year one, especially considering how much of the roster turnover he's got to be piecing together here. But I don't know, man, with how much interest we're getting right now and all the NIL promising that's going on, I can't help but think we've got a really solid chance at having a pretty fun basketball team to watch next year.
Oh, I agree 100%. It should be fun to watch. I'm ready for those dominoes to start falling. I think just like everybody else is, we saw one of those with the Big Z commitment, but now it's time. The portal closes in the month, so we need to get some things rolling here. As we usually try to start up, that summer practice into May into June. Get guys coming in practicing and whatnot. So Cal's much more of a quiet guy than what Muss is. So you know I trust what he's doing, and I think he's really putting in some work. He was at an overtime elite event, I believe, just a few days ago, talking to Carter Knox and Samto Cyril, another one of the big men from Kentucky that decommitted from that class that seems to be like a freak athlete with his vertical, and he got deemed a cheat code. So it's going to be interesting to see if Cal can land those two guys. You're talking about DJ Wagner, another guy that is leaving Kentucky that could follow Cal. We've been putting the top 3 for Duke transfer guard Roach. He's been a guy that they said he's choosing between essentially Arkansas, Kentucky, and St. John's. So Cal's name is out there, and it's for a good reason, because guys know that he can get them to the league, and it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do. We'll talk more about this on Saturday, and hopefully maybe we'll have a few more commits to talk about. But with that, we'll wrap up here. And like we said, Saturday, Core Brewing, be there at their tap room in Springdale. If you go find our Facebook page, it's got the address, all the event details. Like we said, we're going to be going live at 6 o'clock. Feel free to come early. I'm going to be there a little bit early. Seth's going to be there, probably catching some baseball. Before we get ready to go, it's going to be a great time. Get out there. We're going to have, some, free giveaways for some people, maybe some type of raffle thing. We're going to have Addison Nichols and Taylor Green there talking about spring practice. Bring some questions, because we might open the floor up to some audience questions depending on what time looks like for us. So it's going to be a fun event. Get out there, support us, support Core, your local, brewing company that is, producing some fantastic stuff in the Scarlet Letter, who's, they've graciously sponsored us, and, we're just repaying them and bringing them some attention, and, hopefully we grow along with them. So it's going to be a great event. It starts at 6 o'clock this Saturday, the 20th. Get out there. It's over in Springdale. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Excited to see everybody that comes out. Got a lot of family and friends coming. Obviously, Taylor and Addison, they're awesome guys to hang out with, talk to, and they've got a lot of great insight on what's going on in the football team. Got a ton of cool social media videos out there, and we hope to make a few of them for them. So anyway, y'all come out there, say hey to them, get you some drinks. It'll be a great time. Looking forward to it.
Yep. And with that, we'll see you guys on Saturday. Be there. You don't want to miss it.